The Las Vegas culture lends itself to a place where people come to let go, to lose their inhibitions.
Whatever happens in Vegas usually ends up at UMC. And a lot of times it starts out with, hey, hold my beer.
We got an emergency situation here.
We have a saying in trauma surgery, everyone's stable until they're not.
Hey, you call a cab?
As soon as I saw the gun, I hit the gas.
They were trying to kill him.
Help, I just been shot.
He noticed that the Rolex watch worth $35,000 was missing. It wasn't your typical snatch and grab.
Oh my God, we had a motorcycle accident out in the desert.
And he had phenomenal injuries when he came in.
We probably have an hour left with my dad.
You're sitting on a time bomb waiting to go off. You're hoping you can get to it or defuse it before it does go off.
Fire medical.
Jesus.
911, what is your emergency?
Sin City has it all. Booze, drugs, money, and celebrities. And everything that comes with it.
I've seen some crazy things happen in this town. All sorts of people get in trouble here, from celebrities, NFL players, to your average person.
Every day there's something new that I can't explain, I've never seen, or ridiculous stories that you only hear about on television that you think would never exist, and then you happen to run into that case in your department.
This is one of those cases.
Kenneth Herald came to Las Vegas for what he described as both business and pleasure.
I'm in the import-export business.
It's such a coincidence.
In the hotel bar, he makes a new friend, Christina.
How long are you in Vegas for?
After an hour of chit-chat and drinks, Christina agrees to come up to his room and give him a massage.
Oh.
Here goes her.
Let me relax you.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. Oh, that's good.
At some point, she asked him to remove his very expensive Rolex watch worth $35,000. He put it on the floor because he wanted to keep it in his eyesight.
But at some point during the massage, Kenneth gets distracted.
Hold on a second. Where's my watch? Oh, it was right there.
The watch was missing, and it was nowhere to be found.
No, hold on a second. There's something not right here.
Kenneth accuses her of stealing the watch, but she has no place to hide it.
Where would I have put the watch?
He immediately called Wynn Security.
I'm sorry, ma'am. You need to stay here until we resolve this. Please have a seat.
She flat out denies stealing the watch.
I am
I'm sorry.
uncomfortable here.
Then something happens. She complains of not feeling well. She says her stomach hurts.
Do not. This is getting really painful.
As the situation threatens to spiral out of control, security dials 911.
How did the watch get missing from his room?
He had a female in the room. She's still here. We actually have her in here, and she's claiming she doesn't have it.
She's not combative.
She was. I actually had to put her in cuffs because she was trying to run out.
Hurts! Oh.
I hear her screaming, so I guess I better go.
While hotel security detains the woman, Vegas detectives arrive and search the room for the Rolex.
Right away, actually.
And they couldn't find the watch anywhere.
There's nobody else in here.
Detectives suspect Kenneth is the victim of a scam known as a trick roll.
A lot of our potential victims that are in Las Vegas come with large amounts of cash because they are here to gamble and have a good time.
It's a big trade show town where, we're number 1 or 2 in the country. Guys come here, married guys, they meet the girls at the bar. A girl will take a guy up to his room, make him feel at ease to try to get their guard down and not even have sex with him yet. If she finds enough valuables, she'll take those valuables and she'll bolt out the door. They don't realize these girls will steal anything that's not nailed down if they can get away with it. And normally the guy will not call security because obviously he doesn't want to get in trouble back home or with his company.
I think the slogan, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, sort of creates a mentality that encourages a certain amount of excess and debauchery.
Prostitution can be very competitive. In the past, you may have been able to get a few $100s for a simple act of sex, has now turned into competition for potentially thousands of dollars worth of merchandise and cash. If a girl can get into a room where those kinds of things may be laying around and readily available.
Metro. They're going to be here in a few moments. Are you sure you don't know where it is?
After questioning by hotel security, she admits she does have the watch. And she's hidden it in an unusual spot.
Christina Lafave. It's in her vagina.
Strange as it seems, Vegas police have seen this before.
It's usually in cases where they need to have a quick hiding place for either materials that are taken during a criminal act. The fact that it's disgusting is actually part of the value of those types of hiding spots because they know it's not a place that we typically want to go poking around in.
The benefit, however you want to look at it, to a vagina is that it's basically, it's a pouch. And if it's small enough and their vagina is big enough, you know, put whatever up there you choose.
Christina Lafave is arrested. She says she tried to remove the watch herself, but it's stuck.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you
What started as a robbery is now a medical problem as well.
So they could actually potentially tear a hole in the vagina, which then leads into their abdomen. So that can absolutely happen.
A detective takes Christina to University Medical Center. Because the Rolex is stolen property, this isn't your typical medical emergency.
In this case, a search warrant had to be obtained in order to retrieve property that was put in a very private spot.
Part of what police were doing is making sure the chain of custody is maintained and that the evidence can be effectively used in court by prosecutors.
Christina tries one last time to remove the Rolex herself.
It was so far up there, and probably the bulkiness of the watch itself prevented it from being removed without medical assistance.
It's not the first time UMC has dealt with similar cases.
I've seen jewelry, credit cards, money, spoons, knives, forks. I've seen PVC piping that people have made their own sexual toys. I've seen metal rods, highball glasses, and light bulbs, candles. This to me was probably one of my favorite. It was a shower head still connected to the piping that the shower head connects to.
And a favorite in Vegas? Gaming chips. The big money ones.
The girls goes right in there, takes those chips, and if they're caught or they feel like they're going to be captured, they will place them in an orifice. They'll do whatever they can to hide that object.
I actually really get a kick out of some of these cases because they are unique, and I'm not super specific with my friends and colleagues, but let's just say I have some of the best stories of any dinner party I ever attend.
The medical implications can be serious.
And they wait till they're sick, which could be fevers, chills, or they perforate.
A judge sends a search warrant to the hospital, but medical staff still needs a patient's permission.
Christine, is it?
I normally explain to the patient, I have nothing to do legally, I'm just here to help you out because I'm worried about your health and your condition.
Christina agrees to the internal search. The first step is to x-ray her abdomen. And there it is, the $35,000 presidential Rolex watch. Now, how to get it out? Because the watch is evidence, a police officer is present while Christina is examined.
Okay, just feeling around here.
It's a very uncomfortable situation to be placed in as an officer, but the nature of our jobs as first responders, we're many times placed in that situation.
Doctors use an instrument called a speculum. Because the watch is stuck, they don't want to cause any damage in removing it.
So a speculum's plastic or metal, kind of looks like a duck bill. It opens up so you can get a nice look into the vagina itself. You can look for tears, injuries, or foreign bodies.
The watch is bulky, with lots of edges, but there's no sign it's damaged the lining of her vagina.
Let's see where it is.
The next step?
Okay.
Retrieving the evidence.
Sorry, am I hurting you? A little bit. Okay.
Anything with sharp edges could actually potentially tear a hole in the vagina, which then leads into their abdomen. A tear in the vagina could cause seeding of bacteria into the belly, which could then spread systemically throughout your whole entire system, which could lead to something we call sepsis, which that itself could lead to death.
In Las Vegas, medical staff at UMC are trying to remove a stolen $35,000 Rolex watch lodged in a woman's vagina.
Anything with sharp edges is definitely dangerous from a standpoint of perforation, injury to the vagina, rectum.
Alrighty.
She tried to remove it herself, but it's stuck.
Seeing light bulbs and things of that sort where once they shatter, then those folks would probably more likely require surgical removal.
Just stuck a little bit. Okay, I got it. Another big breath. Okay, I'm just gonna pull the speculum out. And there's your watch.
Months later, 26-year-old Christina Lafave, now a blonde, appears in court for a preliminary hearing.
She was going to give me a massage for $300.
Okay. Kenneth Herald testified at the hearing. He actually wore the $35,000 presidential Rolex to the courthouse. I just had to think to myself, how many times did he wash it?
Isn't it true that you offered your watch as payment for sex?
No way.
Isn't it true that you...
Mr. Herald looked embarrassed to be there. He was clearly blushing. His face was red. He seemed nervous on the stand.
Christina is accused of grand larceny and possession of stolen property. Both are felonies that could land her with some serious prison time.
I always tell a lot of these young girls that come to my office, the two things you can't get out of in life is being pregnant, having a kid, and getting a felony. You get a felony, you're never gonna work again a regular job. It's gonna really tie down your life.
At her trial, her lawyer is able to plea bargain for a lesser charge.
Christina Lafave pled guilty to one felony count of possession of stolen property. Prosecutors dropped the other charge of grand larceny against her.
It was pretty painless. She wasn't gonna have to go to jail or pay a big fine. You know these prostitutes, they never change.
Well, no, I don't.
This one has changed.
I'll trust you on that, Mr. Rasmussen.
They rarely change, Your Honor. I can tell you that I've done this a long time. This one's changed. I didn't think it would happen.
At the end of the trial, the judge asks Christina what she wants to do with her life.
I would love to be a massage therapist. Okay. A real massage therapist.
For Christina, it's as happy an ending as anyone could hope for.
She's a bright young girl, very attractive, very ambitious. She's educated. She does have some certificates in the medical field, and she could do a lot of things with her life. I think she got wrapped into this, unfortunately, and Lafave has actually entered into a rehabilitation center for prostitutes here in town and has, from what I've heard, changed her life around 180 degrees and is one of the very few success stories.
Vegas wouldn't be Vegas without taxis. With so much to see and do along that 5-mile strip, cabbies are an essential part of the Vegas experience.
I've been coming to Las Vegas since the late 70s. I needed a 24-hour town. That's all there is to it. I'd like to be able to wake up at 4 in the morning and go eat a steak. There's nothing like it in this world. No doubt about it.
Frank O'Grady is one of the 9,500 cabbies in Sin City.
It was the easiest way to go to get out on the street. I never did like being in an office.
For Frank, it's the best way to enjoy Las Vegas.
The taxi authority claims this is one of the safest cities in the nation to be a cab driver. 9 out of 10 people are great.
But the 10th can be a killer.
3917, Copper Stone.
It's Frank's first call of the shift, Copperstone Court, a residential area a few miles off the strip.
Check. Put in my GPS and head on up there. And it was a cul-de-sac.
Like most Vegas cabbies, Frank has security cameras in his taxi.
It was a well-maintained street. I mean, all the addresses were lit up on the houses. So I got to the bottom of it, and there was a kid sitting on a utility box.
Hey, you call a cab? Yeah, that's me.
I said, okay, come on, let's go. So he walks up to the car, He says, well, my uncle's inside the house. I'm gonna go get him. While I'm inside, do you want me to get you water?
I'm inside for some water.
You want some water or something?
No, thanks.
You sure?
Yeah.
Anything?
No. And with that, I heard something behind me. I turned, and I got an automatic pointed at my head. As soon as I saw the gun, I hit the gas.
The gunman gets off 5 shots. A simple pickup is now a deadly shooting.
I knew something hit me, and just put my head down and gunned it.
Dispatch. Help, I just been shot. Help.
I didn't really hear the gunshots, to be quite honest with you. I just knew I was hit, and I was bleeding.
Stay with us, Frank. We'll get someone there as soon as we can.
Gasping for breath, Frank dials 911.
911, police, fire, medical.
I just been shot. I'm an 8-cab driver. I'm at Cheyenne in North 5th. I'm headed for the truck stop.
Okay, can you stop where you are so we can find you?
I just been shot.
I understand.
Just kept saying that. I'm going to the truck stop, Morton's truck stop. I've been shot. That's where I'm going.
Morton's truck stop is a familiar spot for cabbies and truckers in Vegas. Police and the fire department are already on their way.
I was shot in the left side.
Left side? Do you know who shot you?
Well, I looked out into the distance. I saw the lights from the truck stop. I don't know how I did it, to be honest with you. I'm talking on the microphone. I got the phone in the other hand, and I'm driving down the street.
Even more incredible is what Frank does next.
So I stopped, actually waited for the light at Cheyenne and 5th, because Cheyenne's a very fast street.
Like right now, I'm pulling into Morton.
Okay, you're pulling into Morton?
I'm at the pump.
You're, okay.
I'm pulling in.
Okay, stay where you are. Stay in your vehicle, okay? What is your name?
My name's Frank.
Frank? Okay. Frank, just stay with me, okay? Just stay on the phone with me, Frank.
It's a life and death situation as a Vegas cab driver, ambushed and shot in the back, tries to drive himself to safety.
Okay.
Stay on the phone with me, okay?
I'm bleeding badly.
I understand.
There was a lot of blood. I could feel myself slipping away.
I'm losing it.
The 911 dispatcher calls for the nearest ambulance. Incredibly, one is parked right next to the truck stop.
I was really shocked when they told us that the call was on the exact corner that we were on. He was probably 15, 20 yards away. He was kind of slumped over, and I know he was holding his chest. My partner went up, and he cut his shirt off, and we saw his bullet holes right away.
It looks like he's taken 3 bullets, 2 to his shoulder and the other to his stomach.
On the back of his shoulder?
We got him buckled up, we got him into the ambulance, and just then, that's when the fire department pulled up.
Hey, I got him here.
Bullets are unpredictable. It's hard to say where they're gonna go. It could have bounced around. It could have hit any organ in his chest cavity.
Frank, how you feeling?
He could probably have a collapsed lung because he was shot in that area.
Frank has lost a lot of blood. There's no telling if he'll live or die.
Take a deep breath in for me, Frank.
He had that pale, ashen gray look. We're listening to his lungs. We're making sure that he's moving air like he should.
It's an 8-minute drive to University Medical Center, where Dr. Casey Thomas and his team are standing by.
It's a rare night, especially on the weekends, that you don't get at least one gunshot wound. We always think of it as the Strip, and it's fun and an adult playground, kind of, but Vegas has its nasty areas off the Strip. We see a lot of stabbings and shootings here in Las Vegas. Whenever someone's a victim of penetrating trauma, either a stab wound or a gunshot wound, the biggest thing we're fighting against is time.
Multiple GSWs. He's got 2 to the left thoracic. Okay, let's get him up on the gurney. Hi, Frank. I'm Dr. Casey. How are you?
He was conversant and seemed more angry than worried about what was happening.
Thoracic. Scoot your butt. Oh, okay.
Dr. Thomas confirms 3 bullet holes. 1 in his left shoulder, 1 in his lower back, and 1 in his stomach below the ribs.
Okay. It hurts right here, right?
Oh, yeah.
In this area, it's particularly dangerous because there's a lot of organs there that he could bleed to death from.
Only a CAT scan can show the damage that's been done.
I noticed that Frank was actively bleeding from his liver and his spleen.
Dr. Thomas stops the scan, and Frank is rushed into emergency surgery.
With the amount of hemorrhage Mr. O'Grady had, he lost up to about half of his blood volume.
They have to stop the bleeding, or Frank won't even make it through surgery.
We do a classic maneuver that trauma surgeons do to control bleeding. We take OR sponges, we pack each quadrant to the abdomen, putting pressure on any of the organs that might be bleeding.
Frank's spleen is bleeding heavily into his stomach. Dr. Thomas decides to remove it.
The spleen is an organ that filters the blood and filters out certain types of bacteria and helps prevent infection. We worry about taking the spleen out and what their consequences down the road will be. However, bleeding always trumps what happens down the road.
I think we're ready to suture.
Once Dr. Thomas removes the spleen, he turns his attention to stitching the bullet holes in Frank's stomach.
His stomach contains bacteria and gastric acid and digestive enzymes that the rest of the organs in the abdomen really aren't meant to be exposed to.
Need to find the source of the bleeding.
Aside from the bleeding component, now we have the risk of infection and even sepsis.
Just keep packing the abdomen. I think there's something here.
He finds more internal damage. A collapsed lung, the result of the bullet hitting his diaphragm.
The diaphragm is a muscle that helps you breathe. It's located between the chest and the abdomen. And when a bullet comes in through the flank, you can injure both the diaphragm, the lung, as well as intra-abdominal organs. We placed a chest tube into his left chest to help re-expand his lung, and I repaired the diaphragm with suture.
As for the bullets, Dr. Thomas leaves them where they are.
Unlike what you see in the TV shows, we don't always go digging bullets out. You end up causing more damage than it does just by leaving it there.
More clamp, please, nurse.
Frank O'Grady is placed in the ICU. The next 24 hours are critical. In the meantime, Frank's attackers are still on the loose.
Anytime you shoot a firearm, shoot a handgun at somebody, it's pretty clear what your intent is.
Armed and dangerous, they could be anywhere.
You've got a large transient population that comes into town, not only on the Strip and downtown, but everywhere in the valley.
Police all over Vegas are on alert. Based on the dash cam, detectives know 2 men were involved in the ambush.
Help, I just been shot.
The trajectory of the bullet path was in through the driver's side window and in through the back of the headrest on the driver's side where Mr. O'Grady was seated. They were trying to kill him.
Searching for leads, the police processed the scene where it all began.
We had tire tracks and tread marks that he was coming into the cul-de-sac and then made a rapid U-turn to flee the area. There was broken glass, cartridge casings, or spent shell casings from a semi-automatic firearm.
Frank's 911 call gives them a vital clue, one that breaks the case wide open.
One guy was sitting on a utility box.
Our CSIs developed a partial palm print that they were able to take a lift of, and we ended up getting a hit that identified a suspect.
The print belongs to 19-year-old Quincy Lovett of Las Vegas. Frank O'Grady is on the mend and able to talk to police.
I was getting ready to leave, and they came in. They brought me they call it a 6-pack, 6 pictures, and I picked the kid out.
One guy was sitting in a utility box.
Frank identifies Lovett.
Just came out of nowhere.
A few days later, police arrest his accomplice, 18-year-old Jarvis Williams. Both are convicted of premeditated robbery and are serving 4 to 12 years in prison.
They tried to kill another guy up on the north side, and they took a shot at him, but they missed.
To this day, no one is sure of the motive.
They never asked for any money. I turned, I saw the gun, and they started shooting. If I didn't hit the gas that split second, I'd be dead. I was lucky, damn lucky.
Frank was pretty lucky. If he would have gone someplace that didn't have surgeons on call or was not a well-equipped trauma center, he certainly could have bled to death.
He's what I'd call a salty old guy. He seemed like a guy that had, been around the block a few times. His instinct for self-preservation was right on point. He had the mental capacity to basically get out of that area, and he saved his own life.
It's a night he won't forget, and he has a souvenir to remind him.
I thought it was a scab at first, but it was the bullet working its way out of my shoulder. I took a shower, and one day and a towel hit it, and it popped right out. But I mean, I still got it at home. It was a pretty good-sized slug. Apparently it was in a bad location somehow. The doctor didn't go into detail, but they said, we'll work its way out. And sure enough, it did 30 days later.
Frank's brush with death hasn't shut him down. He's back driving his cab in the town he loves.
I can't be hanging around the house or hanging in the sports books drinking beer all day. I gotta get back on the street and do some work. North Las Vegas police and the paramedics, they were there on the spot. They did a tremendous job. I was just damn lucky. Everybody was on the ball that night.
Las Vegas is the ultimate urban playground. But drive in any direction outside the city, and you'll find miles of desert. And some of the best off-road trails in the country. Especially for dirt bikers.
A lot of trauma in this desert. You know, ATV accidents, motorcycles, rollovers, people driving too fast, people driving drunk and hitting people.
Yet the lure of the ride keeps the thrill seekers packing those trails. Like 52-year-old George Laws of Las Vegas. The Wells Fargo bank manager has been riding dirt bikes since his early 20s.
George did amateur motocross, and he was pretty good, but he did sustain injuries when he was younger. So, against my wishes, George had purchased his motorcycle, and he was excited about it.
His need for speed became a family affair.
Quad riding, dirt bike riding is a very popular family pastime that we like to do every other month or so.
It's Sunday morning, and George, his daughter Christina, and her husband Jeremiah head outside the city and hit the desert sands.
My dad has a dirt bike, we have a couple quads and a razor. We had decided to spend a little family time, you know, enjoy the day and ride on our toys. Very rarely did we run into other people, which is why we enjoyed going out there.
Christina and her dad spend the time riding around on their quad.
I was driving, so that wasn't very much fun for him. I told him, you know, it's getting late, I have to get home to the baby. And he said, let me have one more ride, and then we'll go.
So George heads out on his dirt bike for that one last ride. What do they say? On such tiny wheels, fate turns.
I never thought that he was gonna die.
While tourists get their kicks on the Vegas Strip, George Laws gets his riding his bike in the desert.
I saw a big cloud of dirt.
I don't think that looks right.
And I looked at my husband and I said, I don't think that's right.
On the other side of the ridge, a horrific sight. Christina's father lies motionless, pinned underneath his 250-pound dirt bike.
My husband, his first instinct was to just get it off.
His helmet is cracked and twisted. George is bleeding from his head, and he's not moving.
His breathing wasn't very good, and he was in pain. I can't even mimic the sound he was making, but I could tell that he wasn't doing well. It was just sheer panic, and just immediately called 911.
Paramedical. Oh my God, my dog's bleeding everywhere. We had a motorcycle accident out in the desert.
And who's bleeding?
My father.
Okay, is he awake?
He's making noise like he's in pain. He can't breathe. It's sideways to covering his nose.
Listen to me. Stop talking and listening, okay?
Hey,
Where
yes,
are
I'm
you?
sorry. I'm trying to figure that out.
I had to really calm myself down to try to figure out where I was and how to describe how to get there, because there was no address.
Okay, I'm gonna breathe. Okay, we go past Durango, past Mount Charleston, then there's another off-ramp. After that, there's a dirt road to the right. We're about a mile, maybe, down that dirt road.
It's a half-hour drive outside the city, in the middle of nowhere. For Christina and Jeremiah, it's an agonizing wait.
Oh, Daddy, just keep trying to breathe, okay?
I'm gonna stay on the phone with you until they get there, okay?
Okay, thank you.
As long as he's breathing and making noise, that's all that matters.
It was a terrifying moment not knowing what's going to happen and what to even do next.
Nothing you can do right now.
Okay.
Just hold his hand and tell him you're there. They're almost to the Patio exit now, okay?
Okay. Hello, can you hear me out?
They're almost there, okay?
Oh.
It felt like forever for the paramedics to arrive.
Okay, I'm gonna help you.
Can you see the rescue, honey?
Yes, yes, I see them. Okay, come on, guys.
Right away, paramedics know George won't last the 35-mile drive to University Medical Center.
In my heart, I knew something was severely wrong. They had actually intubated him on the desert floor. The sounds that I was hearing were blood in my father's lungs. They had to life flight him out, or he would have no chance in surviving.
Paramedics radio for a helicopter to meet them at the closest main road.
We just got the call over the radio. Motorcycle down, one passenger. You don't really get a whole lot of information usually until, you get there.
My son-in-law was hysterical on the phone. He started screaming, "Dad is dead, Dad is dead." He crashed his bike, Dad's dead. I instantly was in disbelief, and I thought, this can't be. He's my whole world. He's this family's whole world. This is where my nightmare began.
On the ground, paramedics drive George off the dirt road to meet the helicopter.
Because we were quite a ways in and the helicopter could not land. By the time they had actually gotten to the main road, the helicopter was already there waiting. I knew the fact that they were there quick, that it was serious.
His vitals were terrible. His blood pressure was low. He wasn't breathing on his own. There's a good chance that he was gonna die.
3 minutes later, the chopper lifts off and heads to University Medical Center. Trauma surgeon Dr. Michael Casey is on duty this Sunday and activates the team.
We knew it was a motorcycle crash at a high rate of speed, but that's all we knew.
Some kind of motorcycle accident.
Paramedics worry that George may bleed out before they even get there.
With blunt force trauma, you can kind of tear your organs apart, your liver, your spleen. Then the bleeding goes into your abdomen. His blood pressure was going down. Your blood pressure can only go down so much before you don't have one. You want to think that everybody's going to make it. Sometimes they don't.
One last dirt bike ride in the desert, and now George Laws is fighting for his life aboard a helicopter en route to UMC in Las Vegas. It's now been 45 minutes since the crash.
Got a crush injury to the right side of his chest.
Time is your enemy in trauma. The longer you wait, the worse you'll do.
Let's get George off the board.
The immediate need for him is to protect his airway and to evaluate him for injuries. He was still having blood pressure problems. He was having shortness of breath.
His heart rate is dropping.
He is not real coherent.
George, you know where you are? No, he's not responsive.
Okay.
We were able to stabilize him to some point, not completely.
Order an X-ray and a CT. Is the OR ready?
And he had phenomenal injuries when he came in.
Call Dr. Donald.
Within 5 minutes, CAT scans and X-rays reveal George's body suffered a full assault. Almost nothing is spared. His right eye is damaged. His brain is bleeding. His neck is fractured. He has 9 broken ribs. The right lung is punctured, and 7 broken bones in his shoulder. And that's not all.
Well, you can see the aorta is almost completely transected.
Think of the aorta as the main blood vessel coming out of the heart, and it feeds everything in your body. So if you tear it or transect it, it doesn't supply blood to anything. It just flows out into your chest. Their organs died.
No one can explain how George Laws is still alive. Only 2% of people with this kind of injury ever make it to the hospital.
And half of the ones that make it to the hospital die during the treatment.
He will not withstand an open repair. It's impossible.
George's tear is on the left side of his chest,
That's never
behind his lungs.
Situation.
The problem with George was that his right chest was so badly crushed, all the ribs broken, and the lung was bleeding internally, and it wasn't providing good oxygen for his body. When you open the left chest, the left lung will collapse, and you have to move it out of the way to get to the aorta. So you take the only functional lung out of the way, and then he doesn't get oxygen. So you could fix the aorta, but he'd be brain dead. That's a rock and a hard spot.
Dr. Casey knows cardiovascular and thoracic surgeon Dr. Neil Dushia has handled similar aortic issues, but never in an emergency situation like this. It's a long shot.
The conventional traditional prayer is to do this open. You open the chest and you basically fix the blood vessel that's damaged by either sewing together or cutting the bad part out and putting a new part in. But because of his extensive other injuries, I think the common agreement with me and Dr. Casey is that he would not survive that traditional repair. I had done this type of endovascular type repair before, not necessarily in this instance for a rupture of the aorta.
This operation requires a stent, a tube made of fabric supported by a metal mesh. It's used to reinforce a weak spot in an artery. Dr. Dushia will perform the surgery without opening George's chest. Instead, he'll go through the artery in George's groin and use x-rays and a monitor to guide the stent to the ruptured aorta.
It's like putting a sleeve within a pipe to kind of coat the rupture so that the blood won't go through the aorta that's torn. So blood now goes through the sleeve. This was pretty much his only hope.
But stents are normally made to measure, and they don't have one that fits.
Without that special stent graft, there would be no surgery.
There's only one vendor in Vegas that might be able to help, but it's Thanksgiving weekend. Dr. Dushia calls Gore Medical's Paul Hasforth.
He informed me that they had a patient, but it's minute to minute, and they needed the device that my company made. The trick of it is that it's not one size fits all, so Dr. Dushia actually measured the patient's aorta on the CAT scan so I could calculate the proper device size. We have to oversize the device by 10% so that we get a good seal above and below the tear. As luck would have it, I had the correct size. Jumped into the car and drove like a crazy man down the freeway.
It's a medical gamble. Even with this procedure, George might not make it.
I'm so sorry to tell you this.
So we don't know what the outcome's going to be. So we have to be very upfront with the people, their family, and tell them what we know.
He has a tear in his aorta, and you need to say your goodbyes. So sorry. At that moment, I knew my entire family behind me fell apart.
There is one option that we're exploring right now. That's a new procedure, which has never been done in Nevada before.
When Dr. Casey said he had an idea, and that it had never been done before,
Because
there was a sense of hope.
the conventional way where we would open them up.
But when you don't know that there's ever been an outcome, you still think the worst. It went from a fun family outing to my dad being gone. And I was a little on edge from hearing that we probably have an hour left with my dad. I had actually collapsed into my cousin's arms. Our whole family had gotten there so quickly because they all knew that this wasn't good.
So I don't remember all the details, but I just remember my mom grabbing whatever pen she could find as signing the paperwork just to get the process started.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for trying.
George is prepped for surgery, but there's still no sign of Paul Hasforth and the stent that might save George's life. There's only one thing standing between George Laws and death, a stent graft that may or may not fix his torn aorta, but it hasn't arrived yet.
It's about a 20-minute drive to the hospital, and I'm looking at the traffic, looking at the speedometer, and then I'm looking at my phone in anticipation that, oh, what if the doctor calls and says, go home, Paul, the patient didn't make it. My blood pressure was off the charts.
We had the femoral arteries exposed. We had everything waiting. Unless you had the stents, you can't get in and do anything.
I walked in, I was a little overwhelmed. The patient was on the table and everybody, he's here, we could start now.
We open the artery and we put wires and catheters up, and we shoot what we call angiogram.
They release a special dye into the blood vessels around George's heart to make the tear visible on an X-ray.
Then we make some measurements of how long the graft is, and then once that's done, then we deploy the graft.
Dr. Dushia places the grafting material in a catheter and inserts it through a small opening in George's leg.
They go through the femoral artery, and so they make a cut down, expose the artery, and they push this big catheter in. There's a wire, goes all the way up as far as they can get it into the heart, place the big mesh stent in place.
We try to land the device about 2 inches above the tear and 2 inches below the tear.
It's a delicate procedure. They place the stent graft at the precise location in George's aorta, then inflate it.
And once they expand it, it's there. Wherever they've expanded it, that's where it lives.
It fits like a glove. But will it stop the bleeding?
We shoot another picture, angiogram, to see if the torn artery is actually bypassed or sleeved, as you will, and it was. The angiogram after the procedure looked really good.
The bleeding stopped, and you saw a nice, perfect wall again.
Dr. Casey came back in that room and said it worked. It worked. It was absolutely a miracle.
But George isn't out of the woods just yet.
They hadn't done this before, so we're excited that we did it. We were all happy, but we're all very cautious. This was, a big step, but we knew that he'd still have a long road ahead of him.
This wasn't going to be, now my aorta's fixed, I can get back on my motorcycle and start riding away. He had a cervical spine injury. He had a brain bleed. He had massive chest injuries that needed time to heal and to be repaired.
Doctors hooked George up to a ventilator and put him in a medically induced coma in the ICU.
I never left George's side. I stayed there. My focus was on George. We're gonna get through all these injuries and he's going to heal. Those are his exact words. Dr. Casey said he will heal.
He had to be put in an ICU right away, and we managed his blood pressure, his brain bleed. We put people in different states of consciousness for control of their blood pressure and control the injuries to their brain. In his case, it was both his aorta and his brain. They're actively bleeding in the brain. It causes pressure and damages the brain. But if we control their activity, we can decrease the injury effect of the brain. And it helps the brain to heal. The next problem for George was ventilation, because even though his left lung was working, his right lung was terrible. He continued to bleed and bruise inside, so we're having difficulty getting George off a ventilator.
The first week in the ICU, my mom and I, we switched off in the room to be with him. I would work all day and then I would come and I would try to be with him as much as I could. I remember laying down and falling asleep in his ICU room. One of the nurses just came in and shook me. She said, I can't have you sleeping, but just lay your head the other way so nobody can see you're sleeping.
While George is in a coma, surgeons make repair to the broken bones in his neck and his shoulder. 10 days later, doctors think George is well enough to begin the process of waking up.
That was very hard to watch him go through. George, you're at UMC, you were in an accident, and to watch the terror in his eyes because he couldn't remember, he didn't know what was in his mouth, he couldn't move.
I got knocked out during the accident, so my memory of the accident is none. I have no memory of it, but what people told me.
The police say George hit a slope on that dirt road. The bump knocked him off the bike. He was then dragged about 174 feet before the bike landed on top of him.
They had actually thought he was going to pass away, just from the crash site alone. They kind of estimated his speed, I want to say 80 miles an hour. We're not too sure, and nobody will ever know when he lost consciousness, but I think that's the way God intended it to be, so that you don't remember these things sometimes.
After 17 days at UMC, George is released into a rehabilitation facility. Miraculously, he hasn't suffered any major brain or spine damage.
George represents really, really exceptional patient care. UMC Trauma Service provides that kind of care, and thankfully we're in a system where we have consultants like Dr. Dushia that are willing to come in and deal with these problems when you just make a phone call.
Since George's success story, doctors at UMC have performed this procedure in other life and death situations several times.
The older version of trying to treat him that had a 98% mortality rate. With this new device, we actually flipped those tables to where it was 98% successful.
5 months later, George returns to work. He's lost the sight in his right eye, but he's grateful to be alive.
I am pretty amazed that I'm still around, and I credit Dr. Casey and that amazing team that took care of me.
He feels bad. He feels very bad about it, that he feels he put the family through it. We don't feel that way. We feel very blessed that he's still with us to have those feelings at all. We can't, yes.
It's very hard to explain how much you love someone, and then when you go through an event like this, your love feels even bigger. Yeah.
I made sure he never got on that bike again. Not on my watch.
Choosing between the bike and the wife definitely won.
First time you say, oh, you know, I've seen it all, you're gonna see something else that will make you say again, well, now I've seen it all.
What's going on there?
I was shot in the leg.
We're gonna see what we're dealing with. It was in very bad shape.
Am I gonna lose my leg?
And I saw Mike go down. The blood was just coming out like a faucet.
Come on, Mike. Stay with me here.
The skull had been driven into his brain almost an inch.
Are you Javon Walker? Yeah, that's me. Everything went downhill from there.
Guarantee you, he was never hit in the head like he was this time.
Fire medical.
Jesus.
911, what is your emergency?
Vegas is a mecca for sporting events of any kind. And for one weekend every January, thousands of gay and lesbian athletes take over the town for the Sin City Shootout Sports Festival.
Sin City Tournament is very fun, it's very colorful, it's very active, it's exhausting, but that's why it's so fun, because you're go, 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 You play all day and then you party all night and wake up in the morning and do it all again.
What started as a softball tournament is now the largest LGBT sporting event in the world.
They have every sport that you can imagine, you know, from bowling to archery to swimming.
Charles Jacobson and Michael Stewart are here for the softball. They play for the San Diego Firestorm.
We were a young team. I'm really not expecting to win, but I just try to have a good time.
The newest addition to the team is 28-year-old Michael Petracca.
Michael is a very good player. He's definitely one of the best on the team.
He's very passionate about baseball. He loves the San Diego Padres. I always tease him for that because I'm a Chicago Cubs fan. I don't see the Padres winning very soon.
It's day 2 of the tournament. The Firestorm are in good spirits after whooping it up at the Tropicana the night before. Michael even wanted blackjack. They're feeling pretty lucky.
We had so far won 2 games that day. Everyone was excited.
They're waiting for their next game, hanging out in the public area between the diamonds, watching other teams play.
We were just talking, you know, getting our minds prepared for more games to come. All of a sudden, I saw Mike go down, and I saw his head hit the ground, and it bounced 6 or 7 inches off the pavement.
Oh, Jesus.
He was bleeding in 2 different spots in his head. The blood was just coming out like a faucet. And I'm like, what just happened?
Hey, don't move his head, don't move his head.
Michael Petracca is not moving.
There was blood coming out of his ear. When I saw that, that's when I really got scared.
The other side of his head. Michael!
It was terrifying. I saw my friend laying in a pool of his own blood.
Can you hear me?
The first thought that came to my mind was just a softball, because that happens all the time.
Come on, what happened? Oh my God.
Lying beside Michael is a bat.
Leave me alone. Somebody call the doctor.
That's just the last thing that you think is coming to hit you.
We get a call for a 31 Delta, which is one of the higher priority calls for a male unknown age with a head injury.
At the softball field with a bat. I was like, ooh, boy, hit with a bat, that's not good at all.
At the scene, some hold Michael's head. Others put towels around it, trying to stop the bleeding. Michael is not responding.
I tried speaking with him. His eyes may have been opened, but there was no life in his eyes. It was like you were talking to nobody.
Come on, Mike, wake up, wake up.
Stay with me, man, stay with me. Stay with me, man.
Oh, man, how do you know that they're gonna come out of this? You don't know if they're gonna come out of this.
5 minutes later, paramedics from Medic West and from Clark County Fire Department arrive.
Whoa, guys, what happened?
Michael was lying on the ground. There were a lot of people around him. They tried to do a little crowd control. Everybody back up and relax. You could feel the bones moving together of his skull. We call it crepitus. His head actually felt mushy. He was bleeding from his ears. There was some cerebral spinal fluid coming from his ears, and that's another bad sign that you have a severe injury.
We got an unconscious male. He took a baseball bat to the head, fell to the ground, striking his head on the ground. He's got a really large laceration.
There's a lot of stuff that, as paramedics, we can do, but we don't have a quick fix for this one. Treat it with diesel. You stabilize him and then drive to the hospital as fast as you can, because he needs more than me right now. He needs a doctor, he needs a surgeon.
It was very scary hearing them trying to talk to Mike just because I knew he wasn't responding.
You're in an accident, okay, Michael? Michael, just keep your eyes open, Michael.
I'm gonna take a listen. I haven't seen anybody with a head injury quite this bad before. I didn't know what kind of chance he had.
It's important to keep him awake, just to make sure he doesn't go into like a coma or a deeper sleep.
He's lost consciousness again.
And we have a completely different issue altogether.
Michael, are you with me?
He could die.
At University Medical Center, the trauma team is ready and waiting.
Okay, good.
28-year-old male patient, head injury, was hit by a baseball bat.
Gave him a report, told him what happened from start to finish from what we knew.
When he came in, he had an altered mental status and he had abnormal motor movements. Those are really bad signs.
The first priority is to assess the damage to Michael's brain. He actually has 2 head injuries. One from the impact of the bat, the other from when his head smashed into the cement.
Just trying to lighten your eyes. I'm Dr. Morrissey. Hi.
Whether or not he could answer simple questions, his verbalization. We took a look at the pupils to see if they were equal in reacting.
Okay, pupil on the right, 3 sluggish. Left, 3 sluggish. We get you to do a few things for me, okay?
We checked out his motor, whether he followed commands, whether he could localize.
Squeeze my hand. Big squeeze. Harder than that. Come on. Good. Thumbs up. Let me see your thumbs. This side. Squeeze my hand. Harder, harder. Come on, squeeze my hand. There's nothing going on that side. You guys.
His mental status really was diminished. Beyond sleepy, almost a little bit more like in a coma.
The head, the baseball bat, subsequently fell.
It's a life or death situation. They order an immediate CAT scan.
Halo's negative.
Okay, great.
And call in neurosurgeon Dr. William Smith.
He was in a trauma-induced coma.
Pupils are equal and reactive, but
We see people struck in the head by thrown objects all the time that can be life-threatening. He fell and struck the opposite side of his head fairly forcefully. This guy's had 2 striking head blows within a very short period of time. So he has had, by definition, repetitive concussions.
The right upper arm, left does react to pain. Sternal rub still.
The CAT scan images are dramatic.
It showed that he had a depressed skull fracture. The skull had been driven into his brain almost an inch. Underneath that, he had an epidural hematoma. An epidural hematoma is a blood clot that develops between the brain and the skull.
He's going to need to go into the OR immediately. I'm going to go and scrub in.
If they can't relieve the pressure immediately, Michael will suffer permanent brain damage or even worse, die. He came to Vegas for a weekend of fun and competition. Now, doctors are trying to save the life of softball player Michael Petracca after a baseball bat crushed his skull.
You could see and feel that he had this big boggy area the size of a baseball.
Elevate the scalp off the skull.
We ended up taking a part of the skull off, taking the pressure off his brain, and we took the skull off. It was just mashed in multiple pieces.
Okay, I can visualize the fracture. We're going to need to remove all these small fragments of bone.
We have very special instrumentations, microscope, magnifying loops, different types of drills to remove all the bone fragments. We then were able to peel this blood clot off the membrane of his brain.
Then, Dr. Smith puts Michael's skull back together again, piece by piece.
What we call a reconstructive cranioplasty.
Pass me the titanium plate so I can fasten the mesh.
The titanium plate allows the doctor to reshape Michael's head. As Michael fights for his life, word finally reaches his family.
This is Michael's friend. Michael had a bit of an accident this afternoon at the baseball game.
His friend called us and said that he's in surgery and they have a neurosurgeon was working on him. That's when we knew it was pretty bad.
I was very nervous talking to them. I mean, here I've never met these people and I'm having to relay information about their son who could potentially be dying anytime. They could hear the panic in my voice. I was still holding back as much feeling as I could. I didn't want to break down in the middle of the hospital.
My wife grabbed my hand and said, he's got to be okay, he's got to be okay. I immediately found a flight we could make. Each got a bag and threw a bunch of stuff in it that would at least get us through the night. On the way to the airport, the poor kid, I think we were texting him every 10 minutes, any updates, any updates, any updates. And also during this time, we had notified immediate family. And so having to deal with immediate family, making everyone aware of what was going on was very difficult. We had to keep repeating, obviously, the same thing over and over again, trying to explain things we didn't know, getting questions we couldn't answer. And it was, frustrating because we couldn't satisfy our family members, with any type of encouragement or anything at all, other than all we know is he's in surgery, and we'll let you know as soon as we hear anything else. It was a long flight.
After 2 hours of surgery, Michael is placed in the ICU.
I did tell the nursing staff I was Mike's brother. That came out of just panic that if they thought I was just a friend, they wouldn't tell me anything. And I didn't want to be kind of kept out of the loop. I'd never been in a hospital situation where I saw someone intubated and just covered in tube.
You were the one who taught me how to...
That was very hard to see. It was just holding his hand, where I learned just how nice it is to just be able to touch somebody during a situation like that.
When his parents arrive later that evening, they learn their son is alive, but in critical condition.
It was a horrific sight. We saw him all wrapped up with tubes and wires. The first thing that went through my mind was, I hope he wakes up. We learned that the barrel end of the bat is what actually hit him straight on, the highest amount of degree of impact possible. And they think they're able to control the bleeding, but they weren't sure what the damage was, any type of permanent damage.
Everybody wants to know, well, how's he going to be? What I can say is, surgery went very well. We saved his life today. Tomorrow, if he gets through tonight, we'll have a better idea where he's going to be.
A follow-up CAT scan brings good news.
What we like to see is the brain slowly re-expand to its normal contours. His brain re-expanded very nicely, which is a very positive sign.
So positive, doctors take him off the respirator.
He's a stroke.
Michael starts to wake up.
Oh, sweetheart.
You look in your kid's eyes and you know what they're thinking, and from when they're babies and even, now as adults. And he looked confused. He looked like he wanted to know what was going on.
Suddenly, elation turns to fear.
Don't try and speak, it's okay.
Nothing came out. It was just empty air that was coming out of his mouth.
I thought I was talking. I heard it in my head, but when I opened my mouth, no sound came out. Just almost like a whistle or tongue cracking, and that was it. And then I realized, all right, I can't talk.
Go get the doctor.
You're not saying anything, we can't hear you. There was something wrong with the speech.
Is Michael's inability to speak the permanent damage his family feared?
It is quite common.
Baseball player Michael Petraka survived a bat to the head, but now the young man can't talk.
Where the pressure on his brain was located, it was right over the speech center, the area that allows us to talk and communicate.
He seems to be having problems speaking.
So to expect someone to have what we call an expressive aphasia, and they can't express themselves, they have an inability to talk, temporarily, certainly not surprising in Michael's case.
Dr. Smith says there are no magic bullets. Surgery can't fix the problem. All he can say is, time will tell.
As a neurosurgeon, a brain surgeon, oh, wow, you had this great brain surgery. Well, that's just the start of his recovery. He's going to need extensive therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. It takes a lot of people, a lot of work.
Michael's bandages are removed, and his recovery begins.
Basically, you're doing the drunk test. This line right here, between these two colored tiles.
It was pretty amazing. We saw him take his first steps when he was a baby. and not knowing if he was going to take steps again, it was nice to see him take steps.
Put your hands up. Fine.
He still has a long way to go.
His right side of his face didn't have motor function. And they explained that, well, when he fell and he cracked his head on the right side, he could have damaged or severed a nerve. The nerve could take up to 12 months to grow back and a full function, but they didn't know.
So, lips together just like he did.
But there are positive signs.
Like you're popping.
I felt fairly confident he was going to recover. Why? He actually recovered pretty well his right-sided hand motion and thumb motions pretty quickly. The thumb and the hand, the part of the brain that makes them work is really right, very close to the speech center. So when I start seeing that working, I know the speech is going to come back.
All of San Diego is rooting for Michael's recovery, especially his teammates. One of his friends who works for the Padres puts a message on the Petco Park scoreboard wishing their #1 fan a speedy recovery.
I showed it to Michael. He was able to say, wow. It was very emotional that he was able to kind of breathe that out.
5 days after being hit in the head by a wild baseball bat, Michael leaves UMC and heads to a rehab center in California. The question on everyone's mind, will Michael be permanently brain damaged?
I don't like the term brain damage. You know, if you have too many drinks every weekend, you become brain damaged. He certainly had a neurologic injury, that his ability to do certain things that we like to do day to day were not as good, but he was showing signs of improvement. I can't tell them he's going to be 100% the person he was before, and that's what people want me to say.
Over the next few months, he makes great strides, relearning to walk, to write, and to talk.
I got more speech back, got feeling back in my right arm. I went to speech therapy and really learned how to literally make the sounds, tongue position, everything.
Michael doesn't remember the accident that almost killed him, just what people have told him.
Batter, when he swung, he just lost his grip on the bat.
It flew more than 50 feet over the backstop fence, slamming into Michael's head.
In the 20 years that I've played, I have never seen somebody lose control of their bat.
Michael Petracca doesn't blame the batter. In fact, he writes him a letter.
And he said, I hope you're still playing the game. I hope you don't stop playing. I don't hold any ill will to you. I don't hold you at fault for any of this. It was an accident. You let it slip out. You know, it's not your fault.
3.5 months after the accident, a dream come true. The San Diego Padres invite him to throw off the first pitch at a game.
It was amazing. I am so lucky I got to do that.
He begins playing softball again.
The first time that I saw Mike back on the field, you could tell that he wasn't 100%, but I could tell he's improved. His confidence seems to be getting better and better.
He's not 100%, but he's focused on getting there.
At this point, I'm 85% more able to speak, and I just turned on the positive outlook and was like, I can beat this. I can do anything.
Millions of people come to Vegas every year to lose their inhibitions and go wild. It's a playground for adults.
You can come and party and do whatever and kind of take caution and just throw it to the wind.
Especially if you're a celebrity. If you've got the cash, then the sky's the limit. NFL star Javon Walker's story is one for the record books.
Vegas was one of those places to let loose without no repercussions, you know, have a little bit of fun with friends.
This 29-year-old is flush with cash. He's just become the highest paid wide receiver in the league.
The day I signed with the Oakland Raiders for $55 million was a day every NFL wide receiver athlete dreams of.
We were really proud of him. Just getting to that point in your career, you know, where you finally make it.
Everything I could ever want to do for my family, I could do. It was all unfolding right in front of my eyes.
For $55 million, though, he's under pressure to perform.
We worked hard from Monday to Friday. We've been putting in the work, we've been putting in the time, so it was like, hey, let's just catch this quick flight and hang out in Vegas for a night and come back and get ready to start training again.
We basically went to the airport, but we had on, you know, and he bought all our plane tickets.
As soon as they step off the plane, the party begins.
Anytime I had my friends around me, they didn't have to worry about nothing. They was gonna get drinks, gonna go out to dinner, and I always wanted to show my friends, you know, how close I am to them, and I appreciated them.
Their favorite spot is Body English, the dance club inside the Hard Rock Hotel.
Loved the Hard Rock, saw everybody who is somebody in there.
We had a table in the VIP section. It was great, it was an awesome time.
As the night goes on, the party gets wilder.
We had a couple champagne spraying sessions. We had like 30 bottles of champagne. I don't think we drank one of them, we just sprayed all of them.
It was one of those things that just got the club and everybody excited about a great night.
Girls around always, you know, a lot of random people, you know, just show up and the bottles show up.
After splashing out 15 grand on champagne and drinks, Javon and friends decide to move the party somewhere else.
When you're leaving the nightclub, obviously you gotta pass through the casino. Once you see the casino, it's like immediate, okay, gotta start gambling. I'm playing blackjack, I'm winning.
I think I won probably like $1,200, and I think he might have won like 3 or 4 grand or something.
After 15 minutes at the table, they pocket their chips.
We headed up to one of the parties that they were having in the suite over at the Hard Rock. And there were tons of people up there, you know, drinking. I think they might have been bowling in there. So it was fun. The night was still going pretty good at that point.
About an hour later, Ryan is ready to call it a night.
Everybody was pretty intoxicated, you know, and it was time to head back to the Bellagio. So we were trying to get Javon out the room, you know, safely to the car. That was a task.
Ryan finally manages to get Javon into the cab, and they head off in 2 separate limos.
My driver went into the main entrance, and they went to the north entrance in the back to valet their car. That's where we got split up. But I think he wanted to party a little bit more.
On his way into the hotel, 2 guys in a black Range Rover call out to Javon. They say they're big fans.
Are you Javon Walker?
Hey, it is you, yo! And I'm like, yeah. Shook their hand, and you know, it's like with everybody, you greet fans.
They invite the NFL star to another club on the Strip.
You know, I'll befriend everybody, and that's what I thought I was doing that night.
Javon and the 2 men leave the hotel in a Range Rover.
That's when everything went downhill from there.
Javon Walker came to Vegas to blow off steam, but climbing into a car with 2 strangers may be taking one chance too many.
Cough it up. Oh, I'm thinking, okay, this is not going into what I think it should be going.
These so-called fans are not here to party, and now his life is on the line.
I was just sitting down saying, okay, let me see if I can maybe bargain or negotiate with him. So I told these guys, I said, listen, I'll give you everything I have on me. Just let me go. I won't say a word. You don't know me, I don't know you. One guy in the back got really, really smart. Like, no, shut up. He tried to pull my earrings out of my ear. But when you have diamonds, there's locks on the back.
Quick! Take it off, take it off!
I'm not sure how many times they hit me.
911 emergency.
I have a person laying in the street here. He looks like he's been severely beat.
Where?
From him going Albert. Can you send somebody down here for me?
The call from the security guard comes from a parking lot less than a block from the Bellagio.
I'll stand by here and wait till I get here, because he's in bad shape. Cell phones all over the place. Looks like he's been run over.
The security guard has no idea the unconscious man is NFL star Javon Walker. 5 minutes later, paramedics from Medic West and Clark County Fire Department arrive.
Caller on him. Sure. Hello, can you hear me?
He was actually out of it. We consider this an altered mental status. He had swelling on his face. He had marks. There was bruising and bleeding. Whatever happened to him, if he was beaten up, they did a pretty good job on him.
His vital signs are normal, but his battered face and head could spell trouble.
If you've had a significant amount of facial trauma or trauma to the skull, that can cause a smorgasbord of problems that could take place. And whenever you have that swelling within the brain, that's when you really need to get your patient to the hospital as quickly as possible. It wasn't until we kind of got close to Sunrise Hospital that I said, this is a familiar face. This seems like somebody who I may have seen before.
Once I realized it was Javon Walker, knowing that he's an NFL player, having a possible spinal cord injury or even a brain injury, the thought crosses your mind. I wonder what his life is going to be like after this.
They arrive at Sunrise Medical Center, where emergency room physician Dr. Gary Goldberg is starting his morning shift.
What have we here?
We have a male patient in his 20s, suspected assault.
Shortly after he came in, I did find out that he was a football player.
Obvious injury to the right eye.
I guarantee you, he was never hit in the head like he was this time.
Sir, do you know where you are?
I could smell alcohol in his breath. If you have an intoxicated patient with a significant head injury, you've got a real problem. I couldn't see his eye, so we already are worried that there may be a fracture in his face. Facial fractures can be very serious, including with permanent damage possibly to the facial or eye muscles and visual problems, dental problems, all that, rebreathing problems. So that's significant. You rarely see that with football. The football players, they've got guards on their face. They don't get those kind of injuries.
His blood alcohol level is almost 4 times over the limit. A CAT scan is the only way to know the extent of Javon's injuries. Injuries that could end a $55 million football career.
What we worry about are significant structural injuries to the brain that could be even life-threatening. When someone presents with what appears to be a concussion or an altered mental state from a head injury, we need to pursue that. If he had a hemorrhage to his brain, that could put pressure on the brain, have to be released, and he'd have to go to the operating room and have neurosurgical intervention. And that happens not infrequently with the type of trauma that he sustained.
I woke up to a slew of phone calls in the morning, and it was a lady that worked inside the Bellagio. She said that Javon got robbed and beat up really bad, and he's at the Sunrise Hospital, so I immediately got up and I took a cab over to the hospital. All kinds of things are going through my head, and I was just with him less than 5 hours before I got the phone call, you know what I mean? How bad could it be?
The CAT scan shows that Javon hasn't suffered any brain damage, and there's no sign of any injuries to his spine. But he has suffered a concussion and a severely broken jaw.
The maxilla is the upper part of the jaw. And when that fractures, that takes a pretty solid hit to do that.
He's also shattered a bone in his eye socket.
We often call these types of fractures blowout fractures because the bone in this area of the floor is so thin that it will literally blow out, and you'll end up with a hole inside the eye socket. That has major implications for your vision. In the worst case scenario, blindness. Obviously, major implications for a high-end athlete.
It would be up to the surgeons to decide what exactly they were going to do and when they were going to do it.
Javon, what happened? Are you okay? When I got closer to him, I looked, and it was way worse than I thought it was. Training camp was starting in a few weeks, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, it's no way he's gonna be able to, play football like this right now.
Your way, I went my way. Javon's career and his $55 million contract hang by a thread.
Oh
A few hours earlier, NFL player Javon Walker was partying the night away in Vegas. Now, he lies badly beaten in a hospital room.
I was bandaged up, just kind of like mumbling, like, because my mouth and everything, you know, was all messed up. My eye socket was cracked. I was just in a daze.
The 27 years we've been together, you know, he's never, you know, got in trouble like that when I was with him. You know, part of me felt really guilty, you know. When he opened his eyes, he looked at me, and a tear kind of came out of his eye, and he was like, call my mom. That was like one of the hardest phone calls I've ever had to make in my life. I tried to gather myself for a second, and I called her. She picked up the phone.
Hi, is this Bernita?
I started praying and just asked the Lord to protect my child and hope that he was okay.
His mom is one of the strongest women I've ever met, you know, and she stays calm.
The specialist decides Javon's eye injury doesn't require surgery. It will heal on its own. However, he does need extensive surgery to repair his broken jaw.
Javon had an alveolar bone fracture, which is the bone of the upper jaw that houses the teeth or holds the teeth in place. The way we stabilize those fractures is by binding them to the other stable teeth.
Arch bar, please.
Because the fracture really involves the bone immediately around the teeth, no incisions need to be made.
I have some irrigation and suction, please.
That's good.
We can just stabilize the teeth by putting them back into position without doing any cutting, really.
Doctors caution Javon that he'll be out of commission for 6 to 8 weeks. The reality sinks in.
Here I am, mouth wired, and I'm going into camp, and I can't participate with the team. I was the highest paid receiver in the NFL, you know, so there was going to be a lot of questions that need to be answered.
The story is big news. It sets off a nationwide media frenzy. Not all of it is sympathetic.
Champagne showers and a bloody beating. That's how NFL wide receiver Javon. The wide receiver was found unconscious on a street just off the Vegas Strip.
The $55 million player suffered a battered face.
Walker claims he was robbed of $100,000 worth of jewelry.
The media, you know, just showing everything on TV and how everything that was happening, it's like I couldn't take anymore.
Totally unfair. You know, he wasn't harming anyone, you know, he was just having a good time.
Everybody wants the spotlight, but can you handle the spotlight? Because when the spotlight is good, it's good, but when it gets bad, it's bad. That's when everything just became depressing.
Javon, your mom...
3 days after the attack, Javon's mom arrives and sees her son's injuries firsthand.
When I opened the door, Javon turned his head in the opposite direction so I couldn't see him.
How did this happen? Come here, baby. My handsome man.
You know, his face was disfigured looking, but I held my composure very well. And I just told him, I said, they can't mess up that handsome face.
Could you tell me?
And when I said that, it looked like it was a big relief off of him also.
What did the doctor say?
After 4 days, Javon Walker leaves Sunrise Hospital.
They just said, you're gonna heal fine and take care of your eye, just no contact. No contact for me that's why I couldn't participate when it was time for me to go to camp.
Las Vegas police know whoever robbed and beat Javon was driving a black Range Rover. They check the security camera footage at the Hard Rock and spot the Range Rover suspiciously circling the valet area. It follows Javon and his friend back to the Bellagio. When they check the license plate, they discover the driver is 31-year-old Arfat Fidel. Fidel is seen hovering near Javon and Ryan outside the hotel. When Javon finally gets into the limo, Fidel is seen on his cell phone. Then, once he sees they're ready to leave, he leaves too.
And Javon was a person, you know, he never thought he needed security, ever. He was just like, you know, no one's, you know, I'm a nice guy. No one's ever gonna do that to me. Nothing's wrong with going out. Nothing's wrong with partying. You know, it's just sometimes you definitely have to be aware of your surroundings, you know. And Javon was a person, you know, he's such a friendly guy and such a giving person. If those guys would have came up to him and be like, hey, I'm in a bad situation. We need to borrow some money. He probably would have gave it to him.
Javon picks Fidel out of a photo lineup. His accomplice, 40-year-old Deshaun Thomas of Las Vegas, is arrested and charged as well. Fidel pleads guilty to second-degree kidnapping and robbery and receives 3 to 8 years. He testifies against his co-accused, saying it was Thomas's idea to target and rob Javon. Thomas is convicted of first-degree kidnapping and sentenced to life without parole. 8 weeks after the beating and robbery, the wires are removed from Javon's jaw, and he's back on the field.
Felt like everything was getting put behind me now, and, hopefully go out and catch one touchdown and all will be forgotten. As the season starts going on, I'm still getting backlash, Anytime you mention my name, oh, he caught a touchdown, but hey, remember that incident in Vegas? It's like you could do nothing without your past being brought up.
A few games in, he breaks his ankle, putting him out of commission again, this time for the rest of the season.
Instead of that being talked about, it was still Vegas. It was still Vegas. It was still, oh, look at him. He's hurt now. See, he should have never went to Vegas. What does Vegas have to do with me breaking my ankle getting tackled? I got to a point where I didn't want to play football no more because I got tired of all the ridicule.
His career fizzles, and 2 years later, he's released from the Raiders.
I was hurt because, football, that's my sport, that's my God-gifted ability. So when you kind of take that away from anybody, you're sad about it, regardless if it's a good situation or a bad situation.
But as time passes, Javon learns to put that crazy night in Vegas behind him.
I just had a whole new outlook on things because I wasn't in the spotlight no more. That's when I felt like, oh my God, I can breathe now.
He's built a new career in competitive bodybuilding and sports nutrition.
Javon's always been real health conscious, and him playing football since he was a kid, he's always had great physique. I just think now, that he could help people change their lives, in a positive way by helping them with their bodies. I think that's just something that makes him happy.
You have mistakes that are made, and there's always a plan from God, and I felt like it's not over. I had to go through that dark, dark time to be the way I am right now.
Tourists flock to Vegas to enjoy its casinos and clubs, and some of the best food in the world. Peter Scarturo is executive chef at Trevi, one of the most popular restaurants on the Strip.
As an executive chef, I still go in the kitchen. We get on the line, we help out, we relieve the guys for breaks. Sometimes you have special requests for a guest, so it's better to get back there yourself sometimes and just take care of that.
It's a pressure cooker world. The competition is fierce.
I'm up anywhere between 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm at the restaurant by 5 a.m.
It's the end of another long day for Peter, and a chance to relax.
Just was settling in on the couch, watching TV, had a glass of wine.
He can't completely unwind, though.
Next door, there was parties in the backyard, people smoking dope and drinking all hours of the night, people coming and going. There was a lot going on, and there was a lot of home invasions in my neighborhood. So I just had a gun for protection. I guess I was just so tired, and I was fiddling around with it, and I just fell asleep.
A long day, a glass of wine, and a loaded .44 Magnum. What could go wrong? Something has gone horribly wrong at the home of Vegas chef Peter Scarturo.
Fire medical? What's going on there?
I accidentally shot myself in the leg.
Okay.
Please help me.
And how did it happen?
It just went off. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Oh, it hurts so bad. I don't know what the hell happened. I must have dozed off. I don't know.
Are you able to unlock the door when we get there?
I'll try.
All right, so I need you to try to get to the door. I'm going to stay on the line with you, okay?
Yes. Oh.
Okay, so just
Oh, God. I can't put pressure on it.
I couldn't stand up because without a kneecap, you can't stand. I found that out the hard way.
Oh. I'm crawling over there to the door. I don't believe this.
Even though it was maybe 6 or 8 feet away, it felt like 100 yards. It's amazing what your body and mind can do when you're in a panic situation. I just reached up, kind of pushed myself up as high as I could, unlocked the door, opened it, and then just kind of slumped back down.
Please hurry.
Police are sent to clear the scene before paramedics can move in.
You don't know what you're walking into. Somebody could say they have a self-inflicted gunshot wound. You walk in and there's an active burglary going on. It can be as dangerous for us as it is for the victim.
Meanwhile, Peter is seeing firsthand the damage a .44 Magnum can do.
I could literally see inside my leg, the tissue, the muscle, the blood, everything. I could probably fit 3-4 fingers inside that hole if I wanted to.
5 minutes later, the police finally give the paramedics the all clear.
He was in an obvious amount of distress. He was screaming at me, you know, my knee, my knee.
You gotta see what we're dealing with.
A gunshot wound to the knee is a very serious injury. There's a lot of arteries, tendons, ligaments inside the kneecap. If you hit any of those, then you're worried that he will never be able to walk again. He could possibly bleed out.
Peter, I need you to focus on your breathing, okay?
The paramedics wrap his knee with pressure bandages to control the bleeding.
This is trip 541. We have a 51-year-old male patient with a gunshot wound to the right knee.
When we have critical patients like this, we monitor their blood pressure every 5 minutes. When your blood pressure lowers and your heart rate elevates, it's called a compensatory state of shock. It's your body trying to make up for lost blood. That's when you kind of hit the panic button.
I asked the EMTs, am I gonna lose my leg? I was really, really frightened.
At University Medical Center, orthopedic trauma surgeon Dr. Roger Fonts is called in.
Okay, what do we have here?
This is Peter. He's a 51-year-old male with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the right knee.
Everything's gonna be okay. So just relax and we're gonna get you out of bed.
Believe it or not, I do get enough self-inflicted gunshot wounds accidental, but I've never heard of a patient, you know, falling asleep and then shooting himself.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
We go with the punches and take care of the patient.
I have a bipedal pulse. Can you feel this? Can you feel this? Can you wiggle your toes?
It's almost always worse under the skin than what the skin looks like. And the first assessment that's always done is to make sure that there's no vascular injury, because that's the most important, potentially limb or life-threatening complication of the injuries.
The images reveal the gunshot narrowly missed Peter's major artery.
If it had been a little more posterior, the injury would have gone through his femur, through his actual knee joint. Behind that's his major artery and vein, which could have potentially killed him.
The bad news? The bullet blew away a third of Peter's kneecap. He could be permanently disabled if they don't operate right away.
Well, one thing about bullet injuries is they create significant fragmentation of the bone. If you took an oatmeal cookie and you hit it with a hammer, you're gonna have a lot of pieces.
And irrigate?
That's kind of how this fracture was. You don't want to have those pieces of bone floating around inside the joint. You know, it'd be like having sand inside your engine.
Dr. Fonts washes out the knee joint and removes as many of the floating bone fragments as he can. Most are too small to remove.
The large parts of the fragments were actually well contained. It turns out the patella is actually encased in a tendon, and that tendon almost serves like an internal cast. So we were hopeful that just with the washout that internal cast would contain the bone fragments and let him heal.
Peter, how are you today?
Hey, Doc, how are you?
How are you feeling, buddy?
I says, Doc, I feel like a dumb He goes, really, you shouldn't. It happens a lot. Didn't really feel better, but I was astonished that it happens that often.
48 hours after he shot himself in the leg, Peter Scarturo leaves the hospital with a leg brace. His future as a chef is uncertain.
A typical chef is on his or her feet 10 to 12, 14 hours a day, often 6 days a week. Even a standard patella fracture is a 6-month recovery process.
Now that you have the realization, okay, I'm okay, but how am I going to be okay after this? How long is it going to take me? You start thinking, I need to get back to work.
3 months go by, and the chef can still barely walk.
I gained like 60 pounds because I couldn't exercise. It was just really, really hard.
It's back to surgery for a second time.
Clamps, please.
His cartilage had healed, but there was an area of bone defect. And so we filled that with some bone substitute, synthetic bone, and other tissues, and then had to cover it so that it wouldn't float around inside his joint.
Screw.
Put some screws and wires in there to help hold the fracture together and try to promote healing.
I went back to work 2 days after the second surgery. I still had staples in my leg. I got a nickname, Pistol Pete. And everyone's like, how do you come to work like that? I'm like, I can't stay home.
5 months after kneecapping himself with a .44 Magnum, Chef Peter is back in the kitchen, serving up his signature-style Italian dishes.
I'm great now. I can go to the gym again. I can walk normally. I'm thankful. The doctors, the nurses, everybody there, their knowledge and their experience with trauma is incredible.
He's also a lot wiser about guns.
It makes you realize no matter how good you are with a handgun, anything can happen. I'm obviously a bad aim.
We get some of the craziest calls. People get ran over on the strip, we get drunks, we get cars into buildings.
People going and pushing themselves too far, making some poor decisions. 911 is a number that's dialed quite often.
All of a sudden, he was coming fast.
We got to the pool around 10:30. I had made some plans with a couple girls. You know, remember getting in the car, and that's it.
His lower legs were basically cooked.
And he said, I don't think that your son is gonna live.
911. Car just came through the restaurant window.
The whole restaurant shook.
These people under a car.
You could smell the carnage. It was devastating.
Oh my God, we've been hit by terrorists.
Fire medical.
Jesus.
911, what is your emergency?
The days are just as hot as the nights in Vegas. Nothing is hotter than the pool parties on the Strip.
Pool parties are a huge thing out here in Vegas, especially in the summertime. It gets 100 to 110 out here, and some of the best DJs come out and they perform, and it's just like a nightclub, but you can hop into the pool.
It gets pretty wild. It's when the pools are packed and the pool parties are happening.
Just where Vegas native George Hernandez plans to drown his sorrows. He lost his job a few months ago, now works as a server on the Strip to make ends meet. And a few weeks ago, his girlfriend moved out.
I was with her for 4 years. So I found myself just kind of lost, clouded, broken.
George's party started 6 days ago. His roommate and best friend says it's showing no signs of slowing down.
He was upset about his past relationship, and he was gonna put it all behind him and that he's gonna go celebrate.
We got to the pool around 10:30. I remember ordering a Jack and Coke, just getting settled in. I had made some plans with a couple girls that I was gonna go out with that night. You know?
It's a scorcher. 118 degrees in the shade. He's in the pool pretty much all day, and the drinks just keep on coming.
Nothing to eat, really no water. The night before, maybe 5 hours of sleep.
By late afternoon, one of George's buddies gives him a ride home.
Remember getting in the car. Remember stepping in there. And that's it.
911, police, fire, medical.
That call came in as a smoke investigation call. Often they don't pan out to be anything major. It's usually someone barbecuing or something minor. We saw the column of smoke and realized that this was probably more than just a smoke investigation. When we arrived on scene, we had a vehicle that was fully involved.
You never know what's in a vehicle. We want to do a quick assessment, make sure no one is caught in the car or around the car.
The car is empty, but on the road 10 feet away is a body. It's George. It's a horrendous sight.
He was severely burned. His body was in shock. He wasn't responding to us.
Hey, buddy, are you there?
Almost every part of George's body is burned.
He was definitely one of the most severe burn patients that I've seen. It's a bad blistering burn. And often the skin is actually falling off, so the patient's extremely slippery.
The amount of fire that was in that car, no way you survive if you stayed in that car. He definitely would have died.
Now, it's up to Clark County Fire Department paramedics to keep him alive.
Take some big breaths of this, okay?
Priority on any burn patient is always going to be their airway. When you're in a burning situation, you're inhaling those hot fire gases, and they're extremely hazardous to your airway. Our big effort on these calls is to load and go.
If George is going to survive, University Medical Center is his best chance. UMC has the only burn center in the state.
As I'm coming towards the house, an ambulance drives right past me. I saw that huge black cloud of smoke and I instantly knew that it was George. By the time I got to where my house was, the whole time screaming, yelling for George, the person that actually took him home, ironically, his name was George. And when I said George, he popped up. The police officers were trying to talk to him, and he wasn't responding. He wasn't talking to them at all. But when I came over there, I asked him what happened.
It's a bizarre, almost unbelievable tale.
George passed out in the car. The driver, he wanted to listen to music and smoke a cigarette. He had the AC running, and he fell asleep. Now, when he fell asleep, his foot hit the gas. He was revving up the engine on the hottest day of the year for over an hour in park.
The hot, flooded engine catches fire.
George, the other person, just got out the car. Never once waking George up or telling George to get out the car. He was just pretty much, I think, in shock. And then it blew. That made George come to. The neighbors told me that he crawled out the front window of the car and fell parallel to the front tires. A random sandwich delivery guy saw him and just pulled him across the street.
How could his best friend ever survive that blaze?
The firefighter told me that I need to get to UMC Trauma and get his family there immediately.
No, they got him out. They got him out. We have a patient coming in with severe burns.
In the trauma unit, Dr. Terry Lewis is standing by.
25-year-old male patient, second and third degree burns, approximately 80% of the body.
On 3, 1, 2, 3.
His lower legs were burnt with totally incinerated skin hanging from bone and muscle.
Third-degree burns.
So it was basically cooked.
This is a 4th-degree burn.
George?
A burn right through the tissue, down to the muscle or bone.
Without any skin, the evaporative loss from your body is massive. And we have to really aggressively resuscitate patients with IV fluids when they first come in. But you have to find this balance in there because a lot of times with trauma patients, you also have concomitant pulmonary injuries, and you can over-resuscitate those patients, and you can make their lungs wet and soggy, and it's very difficult to ventilate them. So, you know, it's one of those Goldilocks principles where it's not too much and not too little, but you got to be right at the right spot. And if you're not, you know, there can be catastrophic outcomes for your patient.
Wounds are scrubbed, and George is moved to intensive care in the burn unit. There, he's sedated to cope with the pain. George will be monitored hourly. The next 48 are critical.
People burnt that bad, you know, don't make it to the hospital. Everybody expected him to die.
Mrs. Morales, I'm Dr. Lewis. I'm his attending physician.
The doctor, he told me, your son, he can die right away. I have to tell you this because he's very, 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 very bad.
The doctors had said that he had 80% burns, and I guess normally anything over 60%.
As George Hernandez clings to life in the burn unit of UMC, news of the car explosion has everyone wondering how anyone could survive.
There was one guy who apparently was on fire in the street, and he was put in an ambulance. You know, it doesn't look positive for him.
Firefighters and police remain on the scene for hours. The fire was so intense, it engulfed another car and burned the number on George's house. At the hospital, his mother asks God for a miracle.
The priest, he came, then he prayed, and he told me, you have to be strong and have just faith.
I've never been so scared in my life because we did everything together, everything.
Miraculously, George survives the critical first 48 hours.
Many people in his situation, in fact, the majority probably don't survive.
Mommy's here. He was swollen. His head was his face. He was all swollen so bad.
His immune system is extremely weak.
The doctors told me he can gonna live, and I said yes, because he's young.
You're gonna be okay. You're a strong boy.
His eyes was completely closed the whole time. Oh, man.
He was young and in good health, so he had those things going for him. So he had a chance.
But his burns, especially on his legs, are so severe that infection could still kill him.
Irrigation?
All the burn wounds are dead tissue. As this tissue decays, it is a culture medium for bacteria, an infectious material. We have to get dead tissue away from the body. And that process of debridement can be done a couple of times a week in the operating room with scalpels, taking big portions of skin.
In addition to removing the dead skin, George's dressings are changed and washed twice a day.
I will tell you, having done this for 15 years and seeing thousands of trauma patients and burn patients, it's some of the most painful things I've seen patients have to go through.
Day after day for 2 weeks, doctors perform operation after operation, dressing change after dressing change.
It can be noisy in the burn unit or the dressing change room. I mean, it hurts, and patients scream. And infections come and go. The antibiotics that worked last week don't work this week. You have to reculture the wounds because new bugs are growing. Multiple episodes of pneumonia from being on the breathing machine. And so there's a time frame there, which is weeks in length, in which you're continually adjusting and fighting infection. Dressing changes, antibiotics, doing culture, seeing where you're at with trying to keep the infection at bay so he doesn't get septic.
George is still in a coma, and the doctors are losing the battle against the infection in the lower part of his legs.
It became clear to us that there was no coming back. We knew we were facing amputations.
That dead tissue remaining on his body is actually a burden to his ability to try to heal and repair.
I signed the paper. That day was very, very, very hard.
Ready for the bone saw?
Dr. Lewis starts by removing both of George's feet.
Even though we may have thought that we would end up above the knee, you start lower and try to preserve as much as you can, because any tissue that stays alive is available to us to try and reconstruct.
But days later, doctors realize the young man's only chance of survival is to remove both his legs above the knee.
And we want to amputate as quickly and safely as possible because you'll actually see those patients tend to improve.
It works. George does improve, and he finally wakes up from his coma.
I open my eyes, and I see machines all around me, and I can't move. And I'm asking, where am I? Where am I?
Oh my God.
He has no idea what's happened the last 3 months.
There's somebody in the room and says, you've been in an accident, you're in the hospital.
I was so happy. He's gonna be okay. He's very strong. He can handle this.
He told me he loved me, and then he asked me what happened. I've never been able to lie to George. His mom wanted me to ease him into it, but he would have known.
His best friend, Brandon, will have to break the news to George. All he remembers is being at a pool party at the Palms in Vegas.
And then the next thing you know, you're waking up months later in a hospital, completely wrapped up, no legs. How do you tell somebody that story?
Vegas native George Hernandez has been in a coma for 3 months after nearly burning to death in a fire. His best friend tells him that to save his life, doctors had to amputate both his legs above the knee.
Man, I'm dreaming, you know? Like, I'm gonna wake up, like, from this. This is a dream. Like, I know this is not happening. Closed my eyes, started to pray.
After months of painful skin grafting, he leaves the hospital in a wheelchair and begins rehab.
Bitterness? Yes. Against the Almighty? Yes, indeed. You know, I did all the why me's and all the what ifs. A lot of days that I cried. I didn't have insurance, so everything I had to do on my own.
Now, how bad is the pinch? Where's pinching?
On my right.
On the right one?
It's a little worse.
Okay.
I let him know that we're gonna be bad boys for life. We're gonna get through this. Just don't worry. Your brother's got you.
Dr. Vikram Chowdhury, a doctor from Munster, Indiana, is so moved by George's story that he gives him prosthetic legs. George walks unaided for the first time since the accident.
Most people with his injuries don't make it. He has to have had an incredible will to survive. Everybody needs a reason to live. In his case, it was his mom.
My son is a miracle.
80% burn. Wow. Double leg amp. I'm doing inspirational speaking in churches and juvenile detention centers and high schools, and I'm in the process of writing a book. If it wasn't for the burn unit here in Las Vegas, I wouldn't even had a chance. They put me back together.
And what about the driver who caused the explosion? George doesn't press charges. The driver was here illegally and has since moved back to Mexico.
I should be dead. I should be dead. I should. I am beyond blessed. You know, praise God, as a man, didn't get my manly parts and my butt, you know, and my face didn't get it too bad.
There's a million reasons to come to Vegas. 30 million tourists annually can't be wrong.
We just love coming to Vegas. Outside the Strip, there's a lot of things to see here in Las Vegas. Shopping centers. We love bringing the kids here and enjoy coming here, especially visiting my brother.
Beatriz Guzman's brother, 24-year-old Jose, moved to Vegas from Bakersfield, California 10 years ago and works at a steakhouse on the Strip. This weekend, one of the Guzmans is tying the knot in the wedding capital of the world. And that's all the family needed to get together in Vegas.
We saw my nephew get married. Never thought I would cry at a wedding, but I cried. It was fun. It was a good weekend.
Before the rest of the Guzmans head back to Bakersfield, Jose takes them out for a goodbye lunch.
Our visit was coming to an end. We always, before we leave back home, we always have brunch or lunch with my brother. It was the first time going to Egg and I restaurant. My brother talked about it. He's always thinking of these new restaurants, new places to go eat, and he wants us to try it. So he said, they're really good there, let's go, I want to show Mom.
The strawberry waffles with the whipped cream on top is really good, it's delicious. So I know the kids, everybody will like it. Everybody loves breakfast. The restaurant was really packed inside. So I said, let's go sit outside in the patio.
On the same street as the restaurant, Ryan Stull is driving to work.
I noticed a car 3 or 4 car lengths in front of me making a lane change, but he was moving too fast. It had bad news written all over it. He overcompensated, hit the median, and went airborne.
We barely got our waters, and we hear the brakes screech. And I turn around and I look, holy crap, he's not gonna stop.
Watch out! I heard my mom say, watch out. And then, bam, it just landed. Who would have thought?
It happened so fast, but I watched the entire thing happen, and there's that one moment of, holy, did this just happen? I didn't even believe it. I couldn't believe my eyes.
I didn't see the car until I seen it on top of my brother and my sister. I can't. It just happened so fast.
Oh my God. Everything was just like.
911.
Hi, I'm at Egg and I was here on West of Herald Arville, and a car just crashed into us.
Okay. Anybody injured inside the business?
Yes. Yes.
The call came across a normal traffic accident. We didn't think too much of it.
Fire medical. I need an ambulance, please. West of Egg and I. Car just came through the restaurant window.
But once we started getting more notes coming in saying that we had people trapped, then our adrenaline started kicking in.
And how many people are injured, do we know? A lot. It looks like maybe someone's under the car, I don't know.
Couldn't believe my eyes. The worst scene that I've ever witnessed.
The car is lodged half inside and half outside the restaurant, and the engine is still running.
The crying, the screaming. I could smell the carnage. It was devastating.
Ryan pulls over to help. The two men inside the car make a run for it.
Bam, my eyes lit up. He was like, all right, this guy's going down. I'm gonna be the guy to do it.
And the driver, can you give me a description?
Right now he's shirtless.
I ran up to him, grabbed him.
He was a little wild. He might be on something.
Had my knee on his back, and he's screaming at me, you know, stop it, it hurts. And here I am just so fired up, telling him, shut the f up, you're not going anywhere, you're lucky you're still alive. I was waiting to see a gun, a knife of some sort, a weapon. Obviously, this person just committed a pretty big crime, and I wouldn't have been surprised to have seen a gun come out of his pocket.
Oh my God. Okay, hold on. Metro, you on the phone?
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
when you say they're fighting, are they actually hitting each other or are they arguing?
That's not the problem. It's these people under a car.
Soot and ashes on everybody. It was like we were reliving 9/11, but it was in Vegas.
It came out of nowhere. A car plows into a crowded Vegas restaurant patio at lunchtime.
It was literally like being in a war area. And the sound was glass and people screaming and the revving of a motor.
The patio was full and there was children there. We began to pray, not for ourselves, but it was for the victims that was under the car and the people that was on the patio, that there would be no deaths.
And then it was like at a blink, EMS was coming in, the fire department had come in.
It looked like a bomb scene, some kind of explosion or something like that. We yelled at everyone, hey, if you're not part of this, get out of the scene so we can start assessing exactly what we have going on. It was pure chaos.
4 people are trapped under the car, 3 of them from one family, the Guzmans. Jose, his sister Connie, and his 16-year-old nephew, Eric.
I'm basically pinned, seeing my whole family splattered, just everywhere, covered in blood. My nephew, he's all the way underneath. And then I seen my sister, she was at the very end of the car, flat out, all the way underneath. She just was screaming and screaming, and I was just telling her, I'm right here, we're right here with you. Help! My sister Beatrice is just screaming hysterically. She was like, honestly going in circles.
The 4 other family members escaped the car's path, but not the injuries from the shattered glass and debris.
You don't realize how you're gonna lose everybody in the matter of seconds.
The only way to free the victims is to lift the car, but it's unstable.
It had taken out the support column for the mansard, the overhang of the building. Any second, that mansard could fall down on top of us.
One wrong move and the 4 victims, along with the first responders, will all be crushed. Every second counts.
My adrenaline was going crazy. Everybody's was. We knew that no matter what, we had to get them out from underneath that car. Anytime someone lifted something, everyone yelled out to make sure that everyone knew we were in sync with each other and we were lifting little by little.
I don't know how that whole front did not completely come down. Definitely a miracle.
One by one, they removed the victims.
There were several ambulances that literally had their beds lined up on a sidewalk. And as they got a patient, they would throw them on a bed and take them to a trauma center.
10 people in total are injured, 7 of them from one family, the Guzmans. The 18-year-old driver is not injured and is arrested at the scene. At University Medical Center, Dr. John Fildes prepares the trauma team for the flood of patients.
When we have this many admissions coming in, we try to set up a separate team for each patient.
One by one, victim after victim arrives. 16-year-old Eric, 4-year-old Alex, 11-year-old Gabby, 35-year-old Beatriz, 24-year-old Jose, and his 40-year-old sister, Connie.
Connie, I'm Dr. Files. We're going to take care of you.
I'm like the air traffic controller. I've got to have my head on a swivel and know what's happening with each one.
Connie,
It's kind of like a symphony of chaos.
I'm going to need to order some fentanyl and...
The victims who were trapped under the car are a big concern, especially Connie.
Clavicles for sure. We're going to need x-rays and CAT scans, please. Can someone order that up?
She was pretty badly banged up. She had a broken collarbone. We saw rib fractures on the first chest x-ray and also some smaller fractures in her spine. Pretty obvious was this broken ankle that she had.
Okay.
It was clear that was going to have to be repaired surgically.
That wound, please, nurse. Yeah, thank you.
Connie's brother Jose was also trapped. His left leg was pinned beneath the car.
I'd like to have ortho come down and consult, please.
I'm hearing my sister in pain. I'm hearing her scream. I'm hearing the doctors. You know, they're saying we need to get her quiet. Okay. I'm trying to scream like, my sister, she has a medical condition.
6 months earlier, Connie nearly died from a rare disease that attacked her brain and spine. Antireceptor encephalitis is an autoimmune disease. Antibodies attack nerve cells in the brain, causing brain swelling. It's potentially fatal, but in Connie's case, it left her mentally unstable.
Can you hear me, Connie? Pupils are equal and responsive. Is Dr. Rosenberg...
My sister just started walking again. To see my sister back in a hospital bed.
Connie, you're doing great. Your brother's here.
It was horrible, horrible to see my sister like that.
Can you feel that your brother is here? We need to push.
Me and my sisters were really tight. Connie, she's the middle sister, and she's the tough one. She's the one who always, you know, tries to have everybody. She's the backbone of the family. You know, break my leg, break my ankle, break my collarbone, break my ribs. Because I don't want my sister to go through that pain.
Connie, do you remember?
No, I would have took all that. Any day.
Despite being pinned beneath a 3,000-pound car, Jose suffers only cuts and bruises. He's released along with his nephew Eric. He suffered minor burns. Alex, Gabby, and Beatriz have minor cuts and bruises and are released as well. And then a shocking realization by the family. No one knows what's happened to 64-year-old Alberta.
So as soon as I got released, where's mom, where's mom?
The crash at the Egg and I restaurant makes headlines all over Las Vegas. Shocking news for the Guzman family members who weren't at the lunch.
Excuse me, can you tell me where the emergency is, please?
I was scared out of my mind. I didn't know what to think.
Teresa learns her mother, Alberta, was sent to Sunrise Hospital.
Her clothes were right there on top of her hospital bed. And I picked up the bag and the bag was like full of blood. It was horrible.
Alberta has a deep gash in her leg and 3 broken ribs.
I couldn't breathe. I mean, it was hurting so bad, my ribs. And I couldn't move because of my leg. That's all I could remember because whatever they gave me, I must have went to sleep. When I woke up, my daughter Teresa was telling me, everything's okay, Mom. And I asked about Connie.
You know his faces right now?
Back at UMC, scans show her daughter, Connie, didn't suffer any brain injuries, but her shattered right ankle needs surgery.
She broke the shin bone down by the ankle in 2 spots, one on the inside and then in the back. And then she also broke the fibular bone, little outside bone, as well. So that created an ankle joint that can move every which way.
The first thing we said is, which ankle? And that's when we were just like, her good leg. Her good leg.
It's the one leg not ravaged by nerve damage from the rare autoimmune disease she suffered 6 months earlier. Connie could end up in a wheelchair for the rest of her life if surgeons can't fix her left ankle.
Can you hear me, Connie?
The encephalitis that damaged her brain could hinder her recovery.
A person in that condition is less able to follow post-operative instructions and rehabilitation, she would have a harder time obeying the instructions to stay off the ankle. It puts more pressure on me to ensure that she has a good result on the right because that is her only leg to stand on. You have to get to the bone. That can be actually the most complicated part because you want to make sure you don't damage anything like tendons, nerves, blood vessels.
Please, thank you.
Expose the bone so we could just look inside of the ankle where the joint is and wash that out because sometimes there can be little pieces of bone floating around and that can be a problem.
Dr. Rosen. Perfect, thank you.
Then reduce it, put the two pieces back together where they started before she broke it.
The surgery goes well, and 3 days after an out-of-control car smashed into the patio of a Vegas restaurant, Connie is released from UMC and heads to a rehab center in Bakersfield. Connie has recovered from her physical injuries. Mentally, though, she still has a way to go. At the Egg and I, there's no trace of that accident. And boulders now provide diners protection from the traffic. The driver of the car that plowed through the restaurant, 20-year-old Gage Lindsay, pleads guilty to felony DUI causing bodily harm and receives 6 to 20 years in prison.
You hurt my family. You hurt innocent people.
The Guzmans are remarkably resilient. Connie's ankle healed, and everyone still loves Vegas. And Jose still eats at the Egg and I.
There is still good people out there.
Are you all right?
People were taking care of my family. Everybody is working together. You have to look out for each other.
The fire department, the paramedics, Sunrise, UMC, everybody was just awesome.
I'm just grateful I have my family. There's no price for that. Somebody was looking after us, but we just don't eat in patios no more.
We don't even eat close to the windows.
Vegas. It's a whirlwind of slot machines, gaming tables, people, and traffic. Traffic that can grind you down if you're trying to get to Vegas or trying to leave.
Everybody's in a hurry. Now the big bunch of cars, and everybody wants to pass. Everybody wants to be in the front. You get a lot of accidents because of that.
Ventriloquist Michelle Lafave is on the I-95 on her way to a gig in Laughlin, a mini Vegas 100 miles south of the Strip.
Putting words in people's mouths is the best thing about ventriloquism. I love throwing my voice in places that people would never expect. Like, I can't even get another gynecologist appointment.
Your name? Johnny Martin. Martin. How you feel? No good? No good, no?
Since 1993, Michelle has carved out a living performing in the lounges, theaters, and nightclubs of the Vegas scene.
No. Stop. Stop some more. Boy, are my parents proud of me right now.
This gig at the Flamingo in Laughlin takes her out of town for 3 months.
When you're a performer, the hardest part is being on the road. It's not the performance that's hard. Having to pack, make sure you have everything. And then in my case, with all the props and puppets, there's so much to keep track of. Oh my gosh, did I forget Johnny? Did I forget Pedro? Did I forget Paco? You there? Yeah. How about you? Yeah. Okay, so don't forget.
You have to put yourself into a different light to be able to be a great ventriloquist. They're all a little crazy.
I had just gotten married 3 weeks prior, and we had just bought a beautiful home. I didn't even have a chance to settle in and go into Laughlin and living in a hotel room again. It just wasn't something that I was thrilled to be doing.
But the show must go on. And to pass the time, Michelle rehearses the act with her puppets.
The show opens the next day, and we're not gonna have a whole lot of time to rehearse, and I never feel prepared enough. So I'm like, let's run through everything. This is Paco. That's right. My name used to be Raul.
A half hour into the drive, she gets stuck behind a semi on the 2-lane highway.
I didn't realize how slow this semi was going. You're allowed to pass. And I don't know how long that's gonna last.
Let's get going.
And I start accelerating, and this tractor trailer never ended. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I see a car coming this way, also at like 80 miles an hour. He was coming fast. I had nowhere to go. So all of a sudden, I thought, get over on his shoulder. I gun it, and it would have worked, except the guy coming at me did the same exact thing.
911, police, fire, medical.
Got the call late in the afternoon, and it came in as a head-on.
Head-ons are often fatal. 2 fire engines and an ambulance from the Clark County Fire Department, plus Mercy Air, head to the scene.
We heard that there was somebody trapped, so we had automatically sent the heavy rescue.
Everything went in total slow motion. I had no idea I was hurt. It didn't register that I couldn't get out of the car.
Oh my God, lady, are you all right?
This guy asked me if there was somebody I would like him to call for me.
Hello.
All she says to me is, I've been in an accident, you gotta come get me. I've gotta make it to my gig. The car's crashed, okay, not a problem. I mean, she sounds okay.
But rescuers arrive to a completely different picture. A mangled mess of metal and debris. No one is going anywhere soon.
When I pulled up and saw the damage to the car, I thought, boy, this isn't good. The car was just completely demolished.
A head-on collision on a Vegas highway has ventriloquist Michelle Lafave trapped inside her car. The jaws of life are the only way to save her.
She was trapped in there pretty good. They start prying the door open. Her legs were pinned down underneath between the gas pedal and the brake pedal.
Okay, we're gonna be taking you out now.
The steering wheel was putting pressure on her chest, which would put pressure on her diaphragm. She's trying to breathe. She's trying to worry about not getting to work. She was even asking if people in the other car were okay. A lot of times, your patient goes downhill really quick, and sometimes you don't get them back.
Yeah, coming up. Okay, we're almost done.
We had a collar on her. We had oxygen on her. We had IVs started, which gives her her fluid. We scoop her right over and lay her right on the gurney, and she goes right into the helicopter.
Michelle is taken to University Medical Center. The other driver is removed from his vehicle and airlifted to the hospital as well. By the time Michelle's husband arrives, all that remains is debris and her precious puppets.
I knew how much they meant to her. Just the personal value to her. They were her whole life. These aren't just store-bought items. These are things that she's had custom-made, personally made. They are irreplaceable.
Facility about 7 minutes out, and bagging current at this moment. Vital signs for your heart rate 85 sign.
25 minutes later, Michelle arrives at UMC, where the trauma team is standing by.
All right, guys. Wayne, can you get this?
Hey, Doc.
What do you
got?
got?
A 30-year-old female involved in a head-on collision.
Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Foot fractures.
Michelle, there's some obvious trauma here.
Her legs are in bad shape.
We're gonna need X-ray, CT. Can you call Dr. Monroe?
The CAT scan shows she's fractured a rib and both her feet are broken. Her right foot is the worst. The heel is completely shattered.
Her feet were a mess. She had a lot of swelling. She had a lot of pain. The description of an eggshell that was crushed is a good description for the heel bone or the calcaneus because it is a broad, round bone. So when you break it, you actually crush it and it explodes or flattens out. That's when we decided that we would stabilize these initially and come back and fix them surgically at a later date.
They place a pin in Michelle's foot and decide to wait for the swelling to go down. But 48 hours later, Michelle takes a turn for the worse, and it has nothing to do with her heel.
I could not talk, and I was very weak, and I was very, very sore.
Michelle was very quiet, like she couldn't get words out.
The doctors came in and they said, let's get her in ICU right now.
A fractured rib from the crash has punctured one of her lungs.
You have to think about the chest and the lung as a box with a balloon inside. Let's say someone sticks a needle through the box, through the balloon. The air in the balloon escapes into the space between the balloon and the box. And as the balloon gets smaller, then there's no air getting into the patient's lungs. There's no air getting into the blood, no oxygen distributing around the body.
Michelle is put on life support.
You just need to take the work away from the patient. Let them rest, let the lung heal, conserve their energy.
It was traumatic because you go every day and you wonder, what shape is she going to be in?
You just don't know what to do. That's all you can do is sit around and wait. It's a helpless feeling.
Finally, Michelle is breathing on her own. The other driver is not so lucky. He suffers complications and dies in the hospital from his injuries. The swelling in Michelle's feet has come down, and now Dr. Monroe can begin repairing them. Her left foot will heal on its own in a cast, but the right one needs to be completely rebuilt if Michelle is ever going to walk again.
I said to my surgical team that we've got a difficult project ahead of us here. There's not a good approach through the skin to get to the calcaneus so I can see everything I need to see to put it back together.
Clamp.
Dr. Monroe uses screws and wires to reassemble Michelle's ankle joint like a jigsaw puzzle.
We want to get the length and height of the heel back to where it was before, and we want to fix the joint so the joint's well aligned so the patient doesn't develop arthritis early. So we have specially designed plates with screws that allow us to secure the fixation and hold the bone in its normal anatomic position until it heals.
But this puzzle is missing pieces. Fragments of bone pulverized in the crash.
We fill those small areas with bone graft. The bone graft fills the void and provides some stabilization, but it also helps this heal quicker.
It will be 6 to 8 weeks before Dr. Monroe will know if the surgery was successful.
I knew we could get her to walk, but the question is, how well will she walk?
They were telling me I would be in a wheelchair for a long time, and Dr. Monroe made a big deal about how I better not fall either, because if I fall, I'm gonna ruin his surgery, and you only get one shot at it.
But 2 months later, the follow-up with Dr. Monroe doesn't go well. Michelle has developed arthritis in her foot like she was warned, and it's a game changer.
You ruined my surgery! And I'm like, what are you talking about? You have broken pins. You fell on your foot. I told you, if you fall on your foot, that's it. You're done. I said, well, okay, I fell out of my wheelchair twice. Okay, after my husband pushed me. No, I'm kidding. I'm certain I did not. But he says I did, so I guess I did. Now I have arthritis, just like everything he said would happen, so I'm in pain for the rest of my life. I'm screwed.
What's the matter? Headache? Yes. Pain? Yes. Fever? I don't know.
I had to reinvent myself, basically, because I couldn't do the road anymore because of all my aches and pains.
She's given up her stand-up comedy with the puppets for a sit-down radio show about what else? Celebrities in Vegas.
How do I introduce Cato Kalin? Russell Peters.
That's me.
I wanted to know. I really like my life now. I mean, great things have come of it. I really feel that this is a second chance to do what I'm supposed to do. Whatever I was doing, that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. And nobody wanted me on the road anymore, frankly.